Hello everybody, my name is Kevin.
I'm Alex.
I'm David.
I'm Jared. I'm Steven.
Nick.
And today we're going to be doing our final presentation on McDonald's. So a little bit of an overview on how our presentation is going to go. We're going to start off talking about a little bit about the company history, followed by McDonald's main competition, their company culture, their company image, their financials from the recent years, their future plans, and then we're going to finish with a conclusion. So to start off, I'm going to talk a little bit about McDonald's history and how it all started off. So in 1940, in San Bernardino, California, the first McDonald's barbecue opened up by Dick and Mac McDonald. And it was your typical kind of drive-in restaurant, which featured car-side service, and it actually had a very large menu. So then in 1948, the restaurant actually closed for a little bit to change some things, and when it reopened, its menu size had drastically reduced to include only a couple staple items, which included burgers, soft drinks, milk, coffee, potato chips, and a slice of apple pie. And the next year, they actually substituted the potato chips for French fries, which are still a very big part of their menu today. And a couple years later, in 1954, multi-mixer salesman Ray Kroc decided to take a trip out west, and he actually visited the restaurant, and he instantly fell in love with the operation. And since the two brothers were looking for a franchising agent, he decided to take McDonald's and franchise it all around the United States. And that started off in 1955 when he opened the first McDonald's location pretty close by in Des Plaines, Illinois, which is a northwest suburb of Chicago. So then a couple of years later, in 1961, the Hamburger University opened in the basement of the Elk Grove, Illinois McDonald's location. And this is where employees would go to learn how to make the burgers in using the right technique and consistently to do it right every time. And when they graduate, they'd be given a certificate of hamburgerology. So then, 1967, they opened their first restaurants in Canada and Puerto Rico, marking their first two international locations. And between 67 and 75, they started to add a couple more items to their menu, including the Big Mac, which we all know, and a couple of years later, the Quarter Pounder. And in 1975, they made a big jump with introducing breakfast to their menu, starting off with the Egg McMuffin, which is still one of their most popular breakfast items. So then between 75 and 1987, they continued their international expansion, reaching, I think, about 32 countries by 1987. And in that year, they made another big jump forward by introducing fresh salads as part of their menu. And this was a big change for them because it was providing more of a healthy alternative to customers coming in who maybe wanted to avoid the more traditional menu items, many of which were very high in fat and sodium content. So it provided a healthy alternative. And then between 87 and 96, the two most noteworthy expansions that they made, they opened up locations in Moscow, Russia, and Warsaw, Poland. Those two were the most noteworthy expansions that they made. And then in 1996, they launched McDonald's.com, which allowed customers to go and track their progress and see how the company was doing. And in 1998, they launched the Made For You platform. And what this did is it allowed for more menu flexibility, so customers could have more of a say on how they wanted certain items made, or maybe what kind of toppings they wanted on certain items, and gave them a little more power in deciding how their food was prepared. So then in the 21st century, McDonald's has still been making a little bit of changes. In 2004, they celebrated the 50th anniversary of their Happy Meal, which has always been a very big success for them, always appealing to families who maybe had younger children. The meal comes with a toy, and it also comes with, recently they've made some strides in making more healthier sides as an option in the Happy Meal instead of the fries, maybe getting like apple slices instead, and that was a big success. And then 2007, 2012, starting off with some packaging updates, they also launched their McCafe line, which included many beverages such as mochas, iced lattes, frappes, and real fruit smoothies. And in 2012, that's when they started offering their seasonal Shamrock Shake nationally all around the United States. And so today, McDonald's has over 36,000 locations in over 100 countries around the world. And even though the past 3 years, its annual revenue has been declining a little bit, which we're going to touch on later in the presentation, it's still considered to be one of the leading fast food chains in the world today. And so now I'm going to hand it off to Alex, and he's going to talk a little bit about McDonald's main competition.
Thank you, Kevin. So, due to the nature of McDonald's, as Kevin had mentioned, they have a very varied menu at their restaurants. They sell salads, they sell burgers, they sell ice cream, they sell numerous other things. So this is both a blessing and a curse because although they have a varied product range, this means that they compete with almost everything that they sell. So for example, I broke it down into two sections here. You have direct competitors, which is, fast food restaurants. You have Burger King, Wendy's, and Yum Brands, which is actually a corporation that owns Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and KFC. So those are their obvious competitors, the fast food chain. Ready-made food, easy to get. But also, due to what I just said, indirect competitors, that includes anything from Starbucks, coffee chains, since McDonald's also sells coffee, sit-down restaurants, and ice cream shops like Culver's. All of these, the growth of these restaurants can potentially take revenue away from McDonald's and their product lines. Another trend that is also rising just with demographics, at least in America, is what is called fast food or sit-down casual, which is a bit of a step up, than just mass-produced assembly line style fast food, such as McDonald's, but it is a little nicer than that. So that is also taking away from McDonald's revenue, as well as your sit-down restaurants as well, because if you spend, $20 on a meal, of course, you are not spending that at McDonald's. So, but currently, at least in the fast food industry, as we can see here, it holds the largest market share at 12.7%, Yum Brands coming in second. So what you don't see up here is, obviously those numbers don't add up to 100, which means there is a huge amount of competitors in the market share itself, in fighting for a piece of the pie. So Starbucks is interestingly enough their fourth biggest competitor, and they don't, they hardly sell food. So that is the competitive landscape that McDonald's is facing, is they have to compete with pretty much everyone under the sun. But as you can see with these financials, they are winning, as they are almost double their revenue of their next near competitor, which is Yum Brands, which, as I mentioned, owns 3 different restaurants: KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell. And they're just dominating a net income that's fourth of it, and their earnings per share is actually pretty impressive, where it's 8 times that of Wendy's, which is their next biggest standalone fast food chain. So they're doing really well in the competitive landscape. They're, as one of my group members will mention further in the presentation, it's getting a little shaky, but as it stands right now, McDonald's is dominating the industry. So I'll give it to David with some company culture.
So the unique thing about McDonald's is that their business model and their culture is about uniformity and standardization to produce efficient delivery of services and fast revenue. That's what has made it a successful franchise, expanding to the US and 100 different countries, as Kevin mentioned. So much so that putting Mick in front of anything is a metaphor for standardization and uniformity. One big part of this culture is the Hamburger University, which is a 2-week training course for franchise owners and managers of these restaurants in food preparation, equipment maintenance, purchasing, personnel, quality control, marketing, and community relations. So they learn everything there is to know about running a McDonald's restaurant to get their degree in hamburgerology. The way McDonald's describes it is that they take unskilled workers and turn them, well, they say indoctrinate, they use that word, them into the McDonald's culture, which is supposed to be more family style and emphasizes traditional values such as loyalty, dedication, and service. There's no formal education required to manage McDonald's, and a lot of people in the upper ranks of the company actually started working on the crews, the people delivering the food. So as I stated, McDonald's will actually invest a lot of resources into training their employees. They require that their employees complete training modules on the computer to learn about their role in the industry so they can perform their jobs efficiently, quickly, and provide value to the company. What happens when you give them the training modules like this, though, is that their roles are very standardized and will be the same in every single franchise location. They also offer educational opportunities to make sure that their employees meet the basic minimum standards for the industry. So they will offer high high school completion for those who haven't completed high school, English programs, tuition assistance, and even scholarships for qualified employees. And as I said before, many executives actually started at the counter, and 8% of Americans have worked at McDonald's, including the most rich person to ever work at McDonald's. Currently is Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon. Interesting fact. They regard their culture as a three-leg approach, focusing on companies, franchisees, and suppliers. Without one of these legs, the stool will fall. So they really want to invest in their company and make sure that their franchises can run efficiently. And McDonald's is currently in over 100 markets worldwide. They are currently not looking to expand because they need to make sure that the culture is compatible with what McDonald's stands for, which is a culture of a democracy, and it's like a symbol of Americanism, basically. So they have to make sure that the market is ready for that. One interesting thing to know about McDonald's is it honestly doesn't matter what kind of food they serve. It's the McDonald's business model that makes it successful. So there's this case of McCafes in Europe, which are built next to traditional McDonald's, which only have furniture and they only serve drinks. And this is to mimic what we know as like a traditional French cafe. And they are wildly successful at the moment, and they don't sell burgers. Like they applied the McDonald's business model and culture of efficiency and standardization to a different type of food, and it still works. And as you might know, McDonald's oftentimes takes their items and puts a cultural twist on them to make them more digestible by local markets. So this is, I think this is from Malaysia, and that's in Canada. These are French fries and stuff for the local markets. And next we'll head off to Jared.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the company image of McDonald's. So McDonald's itself is actually one of the 6th most recognized brand in the world. Apple is first. They're also beat out by Coca-Cola, and then there are a few others on the list, but McDonald's is actually the 6th most recognized. It is in every continent except Antarctica, if I believe that's correct. So anywhere you go in the world, you will run into a McDonald's anywhere. The golden arches are actually the main focal point of what McDonald's stands for. So anywhere you go and you see the golden arches, you know that there's a McDonald's there. So I believe I was traveling actually overseas once, and the most frequented place that the students that we were traveling with went to was McDonald's. They would skip out on the local cuisine just because they know that they could go to McDonald's and get the same meal that they get here in the US. The way that they instilled such a broad sense of company image is through different marketing techniques. So their first one that they instituted was the Ronald McDonald, who is actually a mascot for McDonald's itself. And they built upon that with other characters as well in the Ronald McDonald world, I assume. But they've done this through marketing techniques, through commercials. They've done it through toys that they now include in the Happy Meals. They do it through many different ways, and they market toward children. So they knew that if they targeted children and families in general, that they'd pretty much overtake the market itself. So the family aspect was one of their big ones. As they talked about with culture, family is very big, and so is brand loyalty. So actually, I'm going to show you the very first commercial that they ever released, which is the first time anyone ever saw Ronald McDonald himself. It's terrifying to myself.
Introducing the world's newest, silliest, and hamburger-eatingest clown, Ronald McDonald. Now, where is that clown? Oh, Ronald. Hey, Ronald. Here I am, kid. Hey, isn't watching TV fun? Especially when you got delicious McDonald's hamburgers. Ronald, you can't be on TV and watch it at the same time. Now, come on and meet the boys and girls. Oh, we've already met. I know we're going to be friends, too, because I like to do everything boys and girls like to do. Especially when it comes to eating those delicious McDonald's hamburgers. A magic tray here keeps me well supplied. McDonald's hamburgers, french fries, and milkshakes. Watch for me on TV. We'll have lots of fun. Ronald McDonald, the hamburger happy clown. A McDonald's drive-in restaurant is his favorite place in town.
So with this commercial, they actually surprisingly, they captured the hearts of children, and they were fascinated by Ronald McDonald himself. And this gave their very positive sense of company image. But they've also had some negative images as well that associated with fast food restaurants in general. But with McDonald's being kind of the forefront for fast food restaurants, they've kind of been the front of most of the negative images as well. So one of the main, I would say, issues that go along with eating fast food is it causes obesity, and it also causes other health issues as well. So they've been under actually quite a lot of
Scrutiny.
Scrutiny. Thank you. A lot of scrutiny that they go through, and they've done this handled this by instituting salads, as they said earlier. They've also built upon that. They've also done snack wraps, which they've actually just recently gotten rid of, actually. And they've also instituted other healthy options as well with the McCafe, which is more of a breakfast healthier option. Besides the negative image, they've also faced many lawsuits, which would I think the biggest one that we would all recognize would be the hot coffee. One lady sued, I think, for about $3 million, but then they ended up settling for about $640,000 out of court. So she was able to get away with this lawsuit in general just because of such a large corporation, that they were such a large corporation, that they'd rather settle than get all the bad publicity from the trial itself. And another aspect that they recently got rid of, it was a couple years ago, was the Super Size Me. So this was a big marketing tool that they tried to capitalize on, but it ended up backfiring by, again, attributing to many health issues that people have. One other aspect that you can refer to, as I referred to earlier, was that it's in almost every country. So they have they've marketed, as David actually said, to different cultures. So they have many different food options based on where you are. In Germany itself, they actually offer beer with many of the meals, so you can order beer with most of your fast food restaurant. They also, I believe in Canada, they said they also offer different types of sides and french fries. In England, they also, I believe, offer fish and chips, which is not something you'd anticipate getting from McDonald's. And in China and Japan, they offer many different options for cuisine that we typically don't see at McDonald's in the US. So I'm actually going to hand it off to Steve, if I get the right name, Steve, to talk about company performance.
Thank you, Jared. I'm glad that you got my name down there. Now, as Alex and Kevin have already alluded to, McDonald's has been encountering a little bit of trouble lately. So as you can see there, I posted the income statements for the past 3 fiscal years. Now note, in fiscal 13, they're looking at total revenues of 28 billion, going down like about $500 million for the next year, 2014, and then shooting down 2 billion more for fiscal 15. Now, you can look at other things. Their cost of revenue, that's also going down, but the profits are still, the bottom line, it's still decreasing. You can look at their operating expenses. Clearly, it's just not enough. Their income is just not, it's not coming in at a fast enough rate to offset their costs. Now, what does this mean for McDonald's? Well, I did most of the year-to-date for McDonald's, and as you can see, the market is not at the moment concerned about this. You can see some strong bullish activity around here, like in late February, March, April, but a huge bearish decline here in early February. So whatever happened here, clearly the market just decided that's not much of a factor anymore. Now, like I've written down, the 20-day average, the moving average, is just going up with very little decline. And yeah, I decided to take a little bit of a broader perspective on this too. So if we look at the past 10 years for McDonald's stock performance, you can see that there have been very few market corrections in their stock. Look at 2007 and 8. There's almost nothing that would indicate that we had a Great Recession, only some stagnation for a couple of years. And then later on, at about the end of 2011, there's another 4-year period of stock stagnation where you can see at about the middle of 2015, it begins climbing even more so. Now, what are the strong buys are increasing for each month. Where the declining returns year after year after year, the lack of consensus among the analysts in the financial industry, it begs the question, is there a bubble in McDonald's stock right now? And if so, will it burst in the near future? And for that reason, it is my opinion that investing in McDonald's is not a wise choice for the time being, simply because of those factors right now. They have done a lot of activity in the past to try and offset this. There's a lot of qualitative factors as opposed to quantitative factors for, instead of just their financials. But at the end of the day, it just seems, I just don't believe that that will override their current results. And so that being said, I'll head it off to Nick Rowe.
So a big point that we've been touching on is how McDonald's has been struggling financially over the past few years because they've tried to do a lot of different things to stimulate customer interest, and it hasn't gone well. And that's why we've seen year after year their sales and revenue has been declining. So a lot of their future plans and what they're implementing right now, in fact, are things that they're doing to try to counteract that slump in their sales. So as I'm sure all of you know, a few months ago, McDonald's introduced all-day breakfast because that's their most profitable and everyone's favorite items to get are on that breakfast menu. And so actually in the first quarter of 2016 was a break in I think a 9-quarter streak of declining profits. So McDonald's has finally started to turn around with all-day breakfast. But they know that's not enough, and that's why they're continuing to do these other things like this Create Your Taste kiosk, as you see in the picture there on the right. They're trying this in a specialized market in Manhattan right now, and basically what you can do is you go to these kiosks and you make a completely customizable burger. You can put whatever you want on it, eliminate anything you don't, and it gives you more of a restaurant experience. You actually have these little table locators like you have at a sit-down restaurant, and they'll bring the burger to you when it's ready. Prices for that range from around $8 to $10, so it'll be interesting to see how people take this approach, whether they're willing to pay $8 to $10, which they could use to go to a real restaurant and purchase a menu item like that. So these kiosks, they plan to not change the regular menu at all. You can still go up to the front counter and a real person will be there and you can order from the regular menu if you want to. Now, McDonald's franchises out most of their stores, meaning that just regular people own and operate them, and that saves McDonald's a lot of their upfront maintenance costs with the locations, and they're actually going to refranchise 3,500 locations throughout 2018, meaning the corporate-owned stores that they keep just to try to keep an eye on things, they're going to sell off to franchisees to save them some money. So currently, they only own 19% of their stores themselves, meaning 81% is franchised out to the public. They're going to increase that to 90%, and by 2017, the savings are going to reach $300 million annually, just from allowing other people to take on and front these maintenance costs for the restaurants. Now, of course, there's been an uproar about minimum wage recently. That's a hot topic, and a lot of people want $15 an hour. Seattle has it. California actually just passed a bill to incrementally increase it to $15 over the next few years. And of course, McDonald's doesn't like that. So by the end of this year, they had planned to create 25,000 robot-run locations across the world, and only 1 to 3 human employees would actually be in these stores. The robots that they've designed, like you can see in this picture here, can actually do everything. They can take orders, they can make the food, they can even hand it out the window. The only thing that these human employees will be doing is to make sure that these robots are running efficiently. Now, this plan hasn't come to full fruition. They aren't going to have 25,000 robot-run locations. In fact, it's still in the trial phase in the western and southwestern United States, and we should be seeing in the next year or two how the public is taking that. Another thing they're trying in, I believe it's New Mexico and a couple locations there, is all-you-can-eat fries. So that's just another thing that they're trying to do to incentivize customers to come and spend more money at their locations and try to continue this increase in profits that they've had recently. They're also trying to enter the health food market and offer more healthy options to their customers, like kale salads. In New Zealand, they have what they call a zesty guacamole chicken burger. So of course, the chicken burgers are a lot healthier than their beef products. But it doesn't really make a lot of sense because, for example, this kale salad has the exact same, nutrition facts as a 4-piece McNugget. It has 12 grams of fat and 280 calories. So while you're saying, okay, kale salad, that looks great on the front, you look into it and it's actually not that great. Same thing goes for this chicken burger. It has 24 grams of fat, which comes pretty darn close to the McRib's 26 grams of fat. And I'm sure the guacamole has a lot to do with it, but you see these healthy options that they're trying to introduce, and they're not always exactly what they seem. So just to conclude, we've talked about McDonald's company history, where they've come from since back in the 50s with their first location, the competition they face from anyone from other fast food restaurants to coffee shops and ice cream parlors, their company culture, their image and how they present themselves, their financials and how they're trying to turn that around, as well as the future plans that they're implementing to try to continue this increase in profits that they've had recently. So these are our sources, and any questions?
Questions about McDonald's? Okay, I have a question. The first one is,